What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis Beta. It actually went on last weekend, but I was finishing up work, so I didn't really get to express my feelings on it until now. So, after playing it for 2 or 3 days, how do I feel about it? Stay tuned and find out. First up is the presentation. Obviously, you can tell the game is a pretty good step up from Phantasy Star Online 2. The game is actually very fluid and beautiful. It's filled with lots of plants, trees, and more in this little test area. I was really impressed with the amount of detail in the world. Because there is so much density to it, I kind of figured the game would buckle a little bit under it. Thankfully, the game doesn't seem to have too high requirements, and it was pretty stable even on my 1070. One thing I loved instantly in the game was the amount of effects. When you fight, there are just sparks and other things flying all over the place, from you and the enemies. It's really invigorating to see. I enjoyed the animations as well. There's lots of little flourishes added to the game that really make it pop. It's not so different from the previous one, but the little details really added up to a better experience. And of course, the music in the game was very PSO and energetic. It was really enjoyable to listen to, especially when the big monster comes out and the boss music kicks in. They really did a good job so far. Also, I do want to mention that the new Genesis cosmetics really stood out compared to the legacy items from PSO2. It really makes me look forward to these a lot more than my items carrying over, something I was a bit surprised by. For all the praise that I have, I do have some downsides as well. When you first start the game, the motion blur is pretty out of control when you rotate the camera. I had to tone it down a lot. Actually, I just turned it off entirely. There was also a weird blue filter that I feel like I keep seeing. It just seems present throughout the entire game, and I didn't really see an option to turn it off. It wasn't too bad, and it kind of sets the tone, but I hope it is an option in the future. And lastly, the weird bloom effect when your character dashes might get old for some. I know for me, after one day of playing, I was kind of sick of seeing it. I would really rather take in the natural beauty of the game's environment instead of focusing or noticing this bloom. Of course, some people might like these, and I don't hold it against them. It's just my own personal opinions. I'm not big on filters and motion blur, so I was grateful that I could at least turn the motion blur off. Hopefully, the blue filter can go too. Next, I want to talk about the gameplay. It was fast and fluid, and it was easy to do cool things as soon as I started. I really liked how easy to play the game was. As soon as I picked up the controller, everything just kind of clicked and felt natural. The movement felt nice and responsive. Even in combat, I had the same feeling. Running around in the world is easy, and it has plenty of checkpoints too. It actually reminded me of Xenoblade Chronicles X in how it feels. You jump really high and you run super fast. And of course, the combat felt good too. It was both simple, but complex in some of its nuances. I really enjoyed how flashy the special moves like arts and techniques are in this game. Particularly, the photon bursts are really amazing to behold the first time you see one. I really liked how the classes feel different, not just in their gameplay approaches, but also their utility. Abilities like shields and buffs and debuffs are present now, even more so than in previous games. I really like this change. Perhaps one of my favorite things about the beta were the world bosses and the giant special creatures that were running around. They were really fun to fight and took a lot of effort from me and the people around me to take down. It was really fun teaming up with randoms around me as well. Because monsters roam around, everyone is trying to fight everything. But instead of penalizing you for not getting the last hit or the first hit, like some other games do, everyone is rewarded equally. Perhaps the best change in New Genesis is the menus. Everything is a lot simpler and more fleshed out. Unlike PSO2, where everything's kind of piled on top of each other. I was also surprised at how stable the game was. Aside from some early hiccups when everyone was trying to download and jump in at the same time, it actually ran fairly smoothly throughout the entire weekend for me. Then again, I do live in Japan, so the connection wasn't too much of an issue for me. I also like that items are automatically picked up now. It really reduces the burden of missing an item if you run past it in a big open world. The new way recovery items are gained is also pretty interesting. You pick them up as drops out in the field. Things like health and revive items are abundantly available for yourself and others. And of course, the character creator has been redone as well. You can tell it's based on PSO2, but the variety of new options really adds some nuance to our characters. I'm really looking forward to getting new accessories and costumes in the full release. I should say, veteran players might be turned off by the simple controls. Things like perfect attacks are removed, but I don't think it takes too much away from the game. And as a long-time Ranger player, I did feel like the class was a bit lacking in this beta. Whereas everyone else was doing big damage and really flashy attacks, Ranger was kind of relegated to just shooting. Even some of its more interesting attacks kind of just boiled down to just shooting. And of course it is a Ranger, but I would love to see some more nuance and style added to the class. I am a bit worried about the possibility of taking down bigger enemies once player numbers normalize or leave certain areas. Of course, I'm hoping that we can just travel around anywhere we want, and once we're at a high enough level, we can take down these enemies solo. If that has to happen. Also, I did find enemy HP a bit high for classes like Ranger and Gunner. Their damage in general felt a bit low, but it does seem like they have a lot of utility to back up that low damage. Also, I'm not sure if the beta had item drops turned up or not, but it seemed like we got lots of items, so I'm worried about the inventory space and Sega wanting to charge again for temporary inventory space. It's an idea that I think is pretty outdated and unneeded at this point, so hopefully permanent storage is more of an option rather than these 30-day passes that we get in PSO2. I'm also not sure if I really like the gacha system of scratches returning. It has its place and it has its functions, and there are some good items in PSO2, but personally, I would rather just choose and buy them instead of having to hope for chances. There were also a few bugs with the quest markers. Sometimes they would point me in directions where there wasn't a target or an item that I was after. Sometimes it would tell me to go up a cliff for the next drop point, even though there was nothing there. And then once I got to the top of the cliff, it would point me back down again. It was a strange problem, and it kind of worked itself out later, but it was something I did take note of. And this is a beta, so I know everything isn't optimized, but I did find the loading a bit slow. It was strange to see these 20-second loading screens sometimes. That said, everything was smooth once it did load. So all of these points considered, my final thoughts are basically that I really enjoyed the game. The gameplay felt nice and rewarding moment to moment. The movement and traversal felt excellent. Even someone like me who doesn't like open world really enjoyed the process of running around and finding the next checkpoints. Also, I should say that teleporting is free. There was only a very small handful of weapons and abilities in the beta. That said, the basic stuff that we got made me really excited to see what could be coming down the line. Melee, especially the fighter class, felt really amazing as soon as I switched to them. I hope that Ranger and Gunner have more oomph added to them throughout the time that the betas run. That said, I did think the Gunner's animations were pretty cool. We could also get a small look at some of the other areas that might be featured in the game. The beta had some barriers around its play area, but you could see some pretty neat biomes in the distance, like snow and even a destroyed city. I was really surprised at how much of PSO2 this game has under its hood though. Things like quests and progression felt very similar, but I do hope that quests are a bit more significant. as the time goes on. The game world feels like it's going to be fun and exciting to run around in for long periods of time, and hopefully there's lots of stuff to discover too. One of my last wishes for this game when it does eventually come out is that they add some new classes. I really like Braver, but I don't want to see it come back as just Braver again. I would really like them to expand on the ideas that they had in the PSO2. Honestly, I wasn't that excited for this game when it was announced. I burned out of PSO2 pretty quickly, but this game has a lot going for it, I think. I really hope Sega keeps at it and nails the landing when this game does eventually release. I think it has a lot going for it, and I actually think a lot of other people who aren't Phantasy Star fans will really enjoy it. This video is a bit fast and loose, but I wanted to get my thoughts on the beta down. Because it's the end of the school year and I'm still working pretty hard, I wasn't able to articulate everything perfectly, but it is also a beta, so I didn't want to have permanent thoughts on something that's probably going to change in the future. Either way, if you have any questions about this beta or my experiences, feel free to ask. As always, thanks for watching, and leave a like and a follow if you enjoyed the video. Of course, leave a comment and tell a friend. It really helps spread the word about my channel. Thank you very much.